Hi everybody, welcome to the Spurs Talk Show. How you doing? How are you doing? Hope you're really happy and healthy, doing the things that you love. I love doing this with Bugsy Malone every day. This is Tottenham Walks episode 92. Just thought I'd take a couple of seconds to pay some tribute to nature. This is usually a field for sheep, but because of the rain, and because this is like a floody area, it's now become a makeshift lake. And the ducks and the geese and the swans have all kind of came in and invaded, and the sheep have all been chased off down the other end of the field. And I just find it quite interesting to see how it changes every day. Who's got control of the territory? It's like a drug war. Anyway, guys, if you wouldn't mind smashing the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell, then we can get going. Let's start talking. I think today, guys, I'm going to do two videos, I think, because I've got quite a lot to talk about. I want to spend one little part of the morning walk talking about the defence, because there's a bit more I want to get off my chest in that regard. And then in the second video, I'm going to talk about some news that's coming out about in the midfield and the forward line regarding the likes of Alfie Devine, Ollie Skip, Lucas Moura, and Ruslan Malinovsky, Marcus Thuram, etc. But I'll probably do that on the second video, so you might see this sliced up. Guys, let's get going. Listen, over the last couple of days, I've spoken a hell of a lot with you guys about the centre-back issue, right? It's our number one, pressing concern, in my opinion, in most people's opinions. And so, you know how much I love Stefan de Vrij. On this channel, I wax lyrical about the guy. He's 30 years old. I never think he gets the credit or the attention that he deserves, because he's usually deprioritised by De Ligt, his Dutch kind of counterpart, who went to Juventus for a big money transfer after the 2017-18 season, when he emerged playing against us in the semi-final. But to me, of the two De Vrij-De Ligt partnership, they're both absolute classy defenders, in my opinion. Both of them would transition incredibly well into the Premier League. And I think De Vrij is absolutely sensational. And apparently we can get him for less than 5 million euros, which is where I want to kind of start the conversation today. I'm a little bit confused by Inter Milan, their whole strategy, their whole thesis, because at the same time as, we're talking about the fact that De Vrij doesn't have, or will be out of contract in the summer, and the same can be said for Milan Skriniar, who's, probably levels above again. And I don't know the reasons why that they haven't signed, or it doesn't look like they're going to be signing a new contract anytime soon. Is that because the players want to run down their contracts, move on, get a giant payday somewhere else that they're not getting, maybe in Inter Milan? Or is it because Inter Milan have got some mutual consent on that maybe they think they can improve elsewhere, and they've identified their own targets? And so, one of the news items that's come out of late is that Inter Milan apparently, allegedly, according to the media, are very much interested in Davinson Sanchez and or Japhet Tanganga and or Emerson Royale. And to be fair, Emerson Royale is not short of suitors in the Italian Serie A. Apparently Juventus are interested in him as well, alongside a couple of other clubs that are kind of further down the table, which, again, is a head scratch. I'm very aware that there's these kind of horses for courses, idea. There's so many players that are talented players that move to a certain league, play for a certain team that doesn't suit their style, or that the league is of a different kind of texture that makes it difficult for them to find their feet, different language, different home, different host country, or maybe they're playing for a different manager. All of the variables around why things don't necessarily work out, and then they end up moving away and spreading their wings and becoming the player that they used to be, or a better version of themselves, or even just emerging as a real talent. You can look at Tottenham Hotspur and see a few examples of that. Giovanni Lo Celso never plays well for Tottenham, really. Plays well everywhere else he's gone in his career. For Argentina, for the clubs in Spain. it's a frustration, but it exists. You could look at Lukaku. Great one year, terrible the next. Depends where he goes, who he's playing for, what manager, what style. Depends on the version of him that you see. Even at Tottenham, you know, Dejan Kulusevski, Rodrigo Bentancur were described as rejects by some people in the community because Juventus allowed them to leave. And yet they have emerged this season, or last season, in the last 11 months since they've been here, at least, as two of the best players in the squad. Horses for courses. So there's nothing wrong with it. But when I look at people like Davinson Sanchez and Emerson Royal, and I hear that Inter Milan would rather those two than Dumfries or, you know, Skriniar or De Vrij, it makes you wonder, like, are we missing something with those players? Are they missing something about our players? Is it just a horse for course situation? I mean, to me, I'm not a massive fan of Denzel Dumfries anyway. I said this before on the channel. I don't think he's anything like as good as we would think he would be, because he's the right wing back who plays all the time for Inter Milan. But speaking to Inter Milan fans, they tell me that they think that Emerson's a better right wing back. So what does that tell you? But I don't think you can make the same assumption about comparing Sanchez to De Vrij or Skriniar. I just don't think that's logical or reasonable. Davinson Sanchez, we know, is 5th choice centre-back for Tottenham. He is, you know, the only thing that's kind of flattering about him is the statistics that often get brought up about his minutes played versus, or goals conceded per 90 played, that kind of thing, over the last year or so. And those stats do look good, but there's obviously a lot of other variables that affect that. Who were you playing? Who else was in the team? Were you at home? Were you away? You know, whatever. And for me, he's 5th choice. Tanganga's 6th choice. There's not a lot of difference in my confidence when I see either of those two's name on the team sheet for Tottenham. So if we can release one or the other or both of those to Italy in January to make room for the players that we need, because we do have six defenders, so we need to let go before we can bring in, or vice versa. Then look, if we could get Stefan De Vrij in, replacement for Davinson Sanchez, absolute no-brainer for me. And, you know, God willing, we could also get a Milan Skriniar in as well. Or if, you know, Conte wanted to do it that way, then go after a Bonucci or someone as a short-term fix, if that's what he wants. I spoke about Bonucci before, maybe about a month ago on this channel. It subsequently came to light, I didn't know at the time, that he's had an interview saying that he doesn't think he could acclimate to the Premier League. So maybe that one's a bit of a long shot, but I do think, guys, that right now the kind of, there's a word in French for when you're talking about wine, when you're looking about how to value a bottle of wine. The word is le terroir, and it basically means like the sum of all parts, whether it's the altitude, the amount of sun that year, the amount of rain that year, the type of ground that you're on, all the different things that affect how good or bad a bottle of wine is on the year. They summarize it by saying the terroir. And I think the terroir right now for Tottenham's January window looks pretty healthy. There's a lot of good options available for Tottenham, for the players that are becoming available in the summer for free. Some of the valuations of those players are very enticing. Tottenham's financial situation looks particularly interesting. We'll find out about that, I think, in a week's time or 2 weeks' time when the results come out. And for me, I feel like the players that we need are available for Daniel Levy, like the sorts of prices that Daniel Levy would really, get excited about. And it's not always about the... Bugsy, come away, please. Sorry, John. How you doing? Sorry about that. I just feel like that Daniel Levy's kind of juices might be flowing a little bit right now. He knows that he has to make some statement signings to keep Conte happy. He knows he's got to put a lot of money on the table to keep Conte if he wants Conte to stay. And whilst there's a few outlying variables, external variables about the economy that he'll be keeping an eye on in the cash flow forecasts, in reality, I don't think Tottenham's finances will prevent us from being able to make a splash. And if we can go and get certain players like a De Vrij for 5 million, if we can go and raid Inter for a couple of their players, knowing that they would want a couple of our players that we don't really want back either, like a Davinson Sanchez, I think it could be a bit of a match made in heaven. I'm pausing before I say that with too much conviction, because I know that it's January window. I know the World Cup is going to add a variable, but actually, I feel like the World Cup actually may add a beneficial variable, in as much as normally we play all the way through Christmas into January, and then it takes time for everybody to kind of sit down and figure out where they are at the turn of the year, whereas all of the directors of football and the chairman have got 6 weeks off now, where they can sit down without the distraction of Premier League, without the distraction of cup games throughout this period. They can sit down and have as many conversations as they want, identify the targets that they know that they would like, identify the targets that they want to keep an eye on at the World Cup, have discussions around what happens if bids come in here, there or everywhere for our players. And so there's really no real excuse to not be prepared, because they have this 6-week window where everyone is free from major distractions apart from the players that are in the World Cup, to figure out their entire strategy. Have the conversations now that can allow them to pull the trigger or get the deal signed January 1st or 2nd, which to me, given there is this backlog of games because of the World Cup break, it's so important to get early business done in January rather than leaving it until the 31st. So I'm pretty optimistic that this window there will be opportunities for Tottenham to get the players in that they need and want, not just in the back line, but in the middle and the up front as well, which is where I'm going to move to next. Get that done early for relatively low money, I would imagine, and give Conte all of the belief and the confidence and the reassurance that we're a team that will back him, is interested in backing him, and we'll go from there. And hopefully Conte can get behind that, sign a new contract, and then the positive momentum can continue for the long haul. That's it for me on this particular segment, guys. I'm going to start a new segment now, and I'll probably upload that one as a part 2 a bit later on today. So I'll see you then. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, guys, bye-bye.